Welcome back to Wake Up America Early. So both the United States and Ukraine negotiators in Geneva are now saying that progress has been made in those high-stakes peace talks. So joining us for more on this is from the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, Peter Doran, as well as retired U.S. Air Force Brigadier General Blaine Holt. Gentlemen, good morning. General Holt, I want to start with you here. So let's take a quick listen to Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
The goal was to take what 28 points or 26 points, depending on which version as it continued to evolve, and try to narrow the ones that were open items. And we have achieved that today in a very substantial way. Now, obviously, like any final agreement, they'll have to be agreed upon by the presidents. And there are a couple issues that we need to continue to work on. But I think the report today is that I think today was worthwhile. It was very, very, it is probably the most productive day we have had on this issue.
So, General Holt, you just heard from Marco Rubio. Sounds very positive, and we really haven't gotten many specifics about the progress. But we do know that many of those NATO countries, as well as Ukraine, are now saying that they found the initial proposal something of a Russian wish list. We see that Ukraine may have to give up really good territory. Your thoughts on how this is developing?
Well, the less we know today, the better. The more that it's under wraps, the more the diplomatic sausage making has a chance of seeing something that's productive. But here's the problem with what the rhetoric we hear from Europe over the weekend, NATO and some other places, is you can't ignore the realities of the battlefield. You can't have 2022 back and demand that the side that's winning the war just go ahead and erase all that. There is negotiable space with Russia because they have needs. Most of them are economic needs, and that's where the levers exist. But what I'm most gratified about is, despite all the rock throwing from the Bundestag and NATO and Ursula von der Leyen and everybody else, we're getting to some sort of place that makes sense. And Ukrainian leaders that I've talked to over the weekend, they want this. They are looking for a way out of this war and keeping the sovereignty of the new Ukraine intact.
Yeah, I'm sure that they want out of this. I mean, there's been so much unnecessary bloodshed, throughout the years. Peter, let's really take a look at what President Trump has been posting on his Truth Social. So he had this to say, in part, quote, Ukraine leadership has expressed zero gratitude for our efforts, and Europe continues to buy oil from Russia. The USA continues to sell massive amounts of weapons to NATO for distribution to Ukraine. Crooked Joe Biden gave everything free, including big money. Okay, so Peter, the president put out this rather negative post, while at the same time, there are reports that he will invite Ukraine President Zelensky to the White House for those higher-level peace talks within possibly the coming days. What really is the strategy here?
Well, Alex, Trump giveth and Trump taketh away. Let's recall, though, he is committed to finding an end to this war. It is personal. He is passionate about it. He cares very deeply from every one of his statements about stopping the killing. And so we have seen some positive momentum on that front. You talked about it in Geneva. That's encouraging. Let's also recall the bar here is very low because progress has been so slow. I don't think it's very helpful to say that President Zelensky and the Ukrainians have been ungrateful. I can't tell you how many times I've heard President Zelensky say, "Thank you, Mr. President," over and over again since February of this year. So that part isn't true. And let's also recall, President Trump is frustrated about the Europeans giving the Russian economy money for oil and natural gas. It was President Trump who gave the Hungarians, one of the biggest buyers of Russian energy, a one-year exemption to our sanctions. So if he's complaining, he should consider the actions that the White House has taken to allow that money to continue to flow.
Interesting. Some very good points you make there, Peter. But we do quickly need to turn to the Caribbean as U.S. carriers have canceled flights to Venezuela. This after the FAA actually announced a worsening security situation there. And U.S. officials have told the news agency Reuters that they will be initiating a new phase of operations, starting with what they are now terming covert actions in Venezuela. General Holt, sounds a little concerning. How close are we here to an armed conflict?
I think that the cartel chiefs are saying a little bit more than it's a little concerning. I think that they're going through the worst psyops they've ever gone through in their entire lives, and they're running for the hills. look, it's an intel drill game at this point. You may see some kinetics, Alex, but what we're getting out of this is we're finding out where bad guys all over the world are. Let's hang on for the next steps, but I don't think you're going to see a shock and awe. I think you're going to see a, oh my gosh, we just emptied your bank account. Where's the next bank account we're going to empty?
All right, General Blaine Holt, Peter Doran, thank you so much for joining us this morning and for your insight, gentlemen.
Have a great day.
Thank you.